Welcome to the HeartKids podcast. My name is Tahnee Jash. I'm a proud Yuin Kamilaroi woman and a journalist. I was also born with a heart condition. And over the next few weeks, I'll be presenting a series of episodes looking at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's experiences of childhood heart disease.
I had no idea how severe it was until I was in ICU and the doctor was explaining to my mum what had happened.
Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that this podcast is being recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, otherwise known as Sydney. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and the land that you're listening in from today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and pass that respect on to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners. Today on From the Heart, I chat to Kenya McAdam about her heart condition and how her experience has made her appreciate family even more. Welcome, Kenya. It's great to have you on Gadigal country today. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
For inviting me.
No worries. And so where do you usually live? Where's your mob from? Tell us a little bit about your country and, what brought you to Gadigal land today?
I live in Katherine, but I'm from Halls Creek, which is in the Kimberleys. Mm-hmm. I'm a Jaru Gidja girl.
Oh, wow. Halls Creek's a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, they call it the Valley of the Dolls. Don't know why. They have more footy players come out of there than models.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. And how long are you in Sydney for?
Just for a few days. Yeah.
Nice. And today we're going to be talking about your heart condition. And when I was doing a little bit of research, I found that you were diagnosed with a condition around 14 years old. Can you tell me a bit about what that was like and describe to me kind of how you felt when you got that diagnosis at such a young age?
So I didn't actually get diagnosed. I had a heart attack.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Wow. At 14?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
So what happened was I couldn't even walk. I was crawling to the bathroom and back to my bedroom. And my mum took me to the clinic and they picked up a heart murmur. And because I couldn't breathe and my joints were just like, I couldn't walk, they admitted me into the Katherine Hospital. And that night I had a heart attack.
Wow. And you must remember that experience so vividly in your mind, like to have a heart attack at 14 years old, and probably didn't know
that I had a heart attack until I went into ICU in Darwin.
Wow.
Because I had to get care flighted from Katherine and taken into ICU because I had a lot of fluid buildup in my lungs, so I could barely breathe.
And did you have any sort of pain or symptoms leading up to that?
Yes.
To that heart attack? Describe to me what that was like.
I had like a really bad cough and I was bringing up like pink froth, like almost like a phlegm but pink. And I thought that was odd.
Like it was unusual.
Yeah,
hey, you don't see that when you...
No. Everyone only sees that stuff with like lung cancer or,
Yeah, not at 14 years old.
No.
Wow. And so then you were coughing. So in the days leading up to that, you were coughing up this sort of pinkish sort of phlegm and...
Yeah, so I'd like cough into like a towel or a tissue and something and it would be pink.
And then did you see the doctor or anything like that? Or you just thought it might have been like you weren't sure what it was and it might just go or...
Yeah, so leading up to my diagnosis, I had recurrent sore throats for like maybe every 2 to 3 months. And I kept representing to the clinic with my mum and she'd get the same, just take Panadol, she'll get better and so on. And well, I didn't get better, I got worse.
That's right, yeah, and it pushed you to that, your body to the point where your body couldn't take it no more and then...
Yeah. But the thing is, I feel like there wasn't enough knowledge around rheumatic fever for the doctors that came into the clinic at the time. So because it's a little remote clinic, the doctors come and go from like Sydney, Melbourne, all over the place and they just do rural stints. A lot of them aren't familiar with the common illnesses in the top end that everybody knows about in the top end. So it's easily for doctors, or from my point, to not want to get into any of that stuff unless the history is already documented on the patient file.
Right. And sometimes that's how it can go missed.
Yeah, undiagnosed, which is what I was.
Wow. So when you were flown to the hospital in Darwin and you know, obviously that's just, I can't believe that, 14 years old and you had a heart attack. What kind of followed from then when you had that experience? What did the doctors sort of say to your mum and to you?
Well, my mum didn't know about it until she got a knock on the door from the police.
Oh my gosh.
Because she didn't have a mobile phone and we didn't have a landline or any of that stuff. So she got told by the police and I was already in Darwin.
That's how quick you had gone already?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how dangerous, my life was at stake.
And were you by yourself?
Yeah.
At that point?
Yeah, I was in the Darwin emergency area, just in a bed.
Oh my goodness. And
waiting to get put into something with another doctor to see me, struggling to breathe. And I just had a little vomit bag.
Oh my gosh.
Just to spit in.
Yeah. And then you're probably sort of trying to deal with the pain, then not knowing what's happening around you or what's going on inside of your body.
I had no idea how severe it was until I was in ICU and the doctor was explaining to my mum what had happened.
Wow. And how did your mum get over to the hospital?
So she drove from Catherine.
Wow. How
all
far?
The way to Darwin,
How
300 kilometres.
300 kilometres, wow.
Yep.
And then while she was obviously trying to get there as fast as she can, you were in there in the hospital and the doctors were treating you and trying to figure out what was going on.
So there was no one that could actually fly to Darwin with me.
Wow. Oh, you must have been terrified, so scared, I imagine. That would have been such a traumatic experience.
Yeah. Well, because I was young, I didn't really understand the full extent of it. But now that I'm older and I talk about it to people, it just dawns on me that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Everybody normally has a support system. If a loved one is needing to get flown out, you have to take someone with you. But at that time, my mum she couldn't just get on the plane because she had 5 of my other siblings to worry about.
And you're so far away. It's not like in the big cities, where you can just drive, what I mean? You just, have to only go half an hour or an hour to a hospital. That's 300 kilometres is massive.
Yeah. And that was pretty much to just stabilise me.
Wow. And how long were you, so when your mum got to the hospital and she spoke to the doctors, they let her know of your condition, and how long sort of were you in hospital after that?
So I think I was in ICU for 3 days, and then they moved me down to, what is it? I think it's the Rapu or something. It's the second level down to ICU.
To monitor you and...
Yeah, so ICU is you got someone on you 24/7. But I think the one down that I was in, that was the one that you could have family members. I could have my brothers and little sister visit, and my mum could be there more than she could in ICU. And that was where everything was kind of sort of sinking in for my mum, that she needed to, organise for my siblings to go and be somewhere else while I got better.
Yeah, I imagine that would have been... Yeah, sort of her trying to process all of this while looking after your other siblings. How many siblings do you have?
5.
Wow, yeah, so you got a big family.
Yeah.
It's a big job.
Yep.
Wow. And so you were told that you needed open heart surgery, is that correct? Was that around this time, or was that sort of after you'd been in Darwin in the ICU unit? Were you allowed to leave and then go home and then told about open heart surgery, or was that sort of all in the one?
So I'm pretty sure that was afterwards. They did say that I potentially had rheumatic heart, but it needed to be diagnosed from a cardiologist. So then I started my journey with Dr. Bo, who's the peds cardiologist in Darwin.
Oh, wow.
So when I went and seen her, that was when she recruited me to do all this advocacy stuff because she could just see the spark that I had to change things. But after she said to my mum that I needed open heart surgery, that was the most heartbreaking thing for her.
And how old were you then when they delivered that news to your mum?
I was 14.
That was in the same year?
Yeah, in the same year.
Wow.
So I got sick, and then like 3 months later, I got told I needed heart surgery, and then 3 months after that, I had my surgery.
Oh, and what was that like for you at 14 years old? You know, you're a teenager, you know, going to school, and you're kind of entering, you're sort of in that phase of your life where you're not a child anymore, you're not an adult.
Teenager.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then you're having your, you know, open heart surgery. That's really big. What was that like for you? I grew
up real quick.
Yeah.
I was like, life is precious. I'm not going to take advantage of it. I'm going to do everything I can while I can do it. So that was, the kind of attitude that I came out of hospital with.
That was a big year for you, hey, like just back-to-back things happening all at once.
But I think once I went to Adelaide and I had my surgery, I think the journey along the way kind of cemented me and my mum's friendship.
Oh, that's beautiful.
As well as mother-daughter relationship. And I think she was in need of a well-deserved break as well. So she actually completed her financial counselling degree while I was down in Adelaide.
While all this was going on?
Yeah.
My goodness, she's so remarkable. Hey, like you got 6 children that you're looking after. One of them's like yourself, quite sick, and then she's studying at the same time.
Yeah.
What a wonderful role model.
Yes. You got big shoes to fill.
Yeah. No pressure.
She always puts pressure on me.
And tell me a little bit about your mum. What is she like, and what do you love most about her? I think I can hear it from you just now describing that beautiful sort of loving relationship that you guys have had through such a big, traumatic, overwhelming experience. You know, you going through having a heart attack at such a young age, then having open heart surgery. But then I guess the silver lining, or the sort of positive in a very terrible situation, was that it brought you guys really close together. Yeah,
so I think our relationship is just as any other mother-daughter. You know, we have our ups and downs and have our FU moments and get out of my house moments and kick a wall moments. But always we revisit the conversation and apologise because we've been through a lot together.
And she's, you know, kind of always been there for you and supported you and had your back. And when you went to Adelaide, you know, you're speaking a little bit before, when you first, you know, had to go to Darwin by yourself. When you went to Adelaide, were you with family then, or were you by yourself? Was that another trip you had to do solo?
No, so I had to take mum with me.
Oh, your mum,
because I was under 18.
Yeah. So then, at least you had her there by your side and able to support you through that operation and the recovery and all of that sort of stuff. That's really good. Hey, have you been to Adelaide before? Was that your first time?
That would have been my second time. I went there when I was 13 to visit family, but that was only for like a week or so, and then it was just a school holiday thing beforehand when I was younger. But then when I went back, it was for the heart surgery.
Yeah. And for people listening who might not know anyone who's had open heart surgery, like when you say open heart, that sounds really, you know, it's huge. What was the recovery like? You know, what sort of helped you get through that?
I think just having the one-on-one care from my mother. Like all my siblings had to go and stay with family while I had to recover. And that was just an agreement in the family that they would stay away for 6 months until I was like strong enough to, you know, walk on my own, be on my own. Because it was such a significant surgery, I still had like a lot of aftercare. Like I couldn't sleep on my stomach.
Wow.
I couldn't sleep on my side. I had to sleep on my back and I had to be propped up.
And how long was that for?
I think about 6 weeks after my surgery.
Wow, you must have had a sore back after that, lying in the one position.
I was just getting sick of all the cushions.
Yeah.
I left half of them here when I went back to the NT after my surgery. I was like, I don't need them anymore, because I needed clearance to fly back after my surgery.
Yeah.
Because of the pressure in the plane.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about like playing sports or any of that? I imagine that would have taken a while, but like any of sort of physical activity, how long did it take you to get back to sort of doing the things that you used to love doing, like any of your hobbies? And
I think I bounced back in that 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, because all my siblings came back and then everything just kind of went back to normal. And, I started my LAB, like my injections every month. And I just kind of got my own self into a routine. And then from that, I kind of just went back into like playing footy, and I was doing athletics at the time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and I went back to Camilda, which was in Darwin, the boarding school, and I took part in the NT championships for shot put and discus.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and javelin too.
They're pretty physically intense, sports.
Yeah.
And did you sort of have to, when you were getting back into it, did you have to do things slowly, like try and test the waters to see how your body would respond?
Yes. So I found after my surgery, I had a lot more energy than I did when I first got sick, because I obviously was deteriorating over time and didn't really know my body properly. So as like a testing the waters thing, I took a lot of effort into like perfecting the way I performed for those sports, and there was a lot of like training involved. And I had a lot of people like, it's okay, it's been months since your surgery, because my main concern was, because my chest got ripped open.
Yeah, of course, you would be, yeah.
I didn't want it to get,
something happened.
Yeah, I didn't want it to get ripped back open again because of something that I did, but they wouldn't have let me fly if it wasn't okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess the experience that you went through before that surgery, like what we were mentioning before around having a heart attack and then having the surgery and then recovering, like that's a lot. And you don't want to have to go, after having gone through all of that and then injure yourself or hurt yourself, it's kind of like taking 2 steps backward. Sorry.
But I think after my surgery, I bounced back pretty well. Like I realized the actual being healthy, like being healthy enough to run 100 kilometers and be able to breathe properly.
That's amazing.
Instead of like struggling to just walk 20 meters to the clothesline to hang clothes out. It was just like I was like a old lady walking up a bloody hill. It was just so hard before.
Yeah. And that was a sign that something was wrong, hey, but you didn't know any different until you had the surgery. And when we're talking about heart conditions, does anyone else in your family suffer with any heart conditions or?
So my grandmother had a congenital heart condition, and my little sister was born with a hole in her heart.
Wow, really?
It's now closed up, but she still gets seen by the cardiologist every 5 years.
Just to check.
Yeah, just to make sure everything's traveling okay. My younger brother had a bout of ARF when he was, I think he was 12 or 11.
What's ARF?
That's acute rheumatic fever.
Right, wow.
So that's the start of rheumatic heart. Yeah. So ARF is preventable. You can have your needles for, I think it's like 10 years, and then get taken off and never have to have heart surgery.
Wow. You got to catch it early though, hey?
Yep.
Actually, speaking of your little sister, I was also born with a hole in my heart myself, but same situation. Mine closed, luckily, because when I spoke to a cardiologist, I think it was last year or year before, he was saying that sometimes, they don't kind of close properly, or sometimes you can hear they kind of not reopen, but like some of these symptoms can come back later on in life. So it's good that she's getting checked out. And also myself too, I went to the cardiologist not long ago because I was like, I haven't got it checked out for a little while. I better go back.
Yeah.
Just to check in and make sure everything's okay. And when we're talking about family, how important would you say your family is for you, and how important have they been in your journey sort of going through having open heart surgery, beating rheumatic heart disease and sort of overcoming all that? How important have they been in your journey through this?
At the time, it was very hard. But now, as we're like all young adults now, with partners and, we've got our own little routine and we're doing our own thing, we all are very close in the sense that we've had to pick up each other all the time. Even like my mum, she always said she wanted a big family because, she wanted everyone to have someone to be around. So there's 6 of us, so we're all pairs.
Everyone's got a buddy.
Yeah, everyone's got a buddy, and I think that at the start is where we've always been close. We've drifted away from each other, crap happens and, you just get through it and then everyone just comes back stronger.
Yeah, that's it. Where are you in the line of 6?
I'm the eldest.
You're the eldest.
Yeah,
wow.
There's a girl at the beginning and a girl at the end.
Oh.
And 4 boys in the middle.
So you're keeping everyone in line.
Yeah.
Trying.
Trying. That's all I can do these days.
Yeah. And when you talk about, I feel like when I'm listening to you talk about your mum, she sounds like a strong woman and a really strong role model for you guys. What sort of, when you think about her and your life growing up, what sort of support has she given you, and what are some of the memorable things that she's done to support you and help you get through this? Which, I think sometimes these experiences can make or break people, but it hasn't broken you, it's made you stronger, and if anything, you've come out on top even better.
Yeah.
Share with me a little bit about that.
So for my mum, I think she discovered that I had a personality. She was already dealing with all these other kids. She didn't really want to worry about the eldest because, she was grown. She knew how to look after herself. But when we went down to Adelaide for my surgery, we laughed so hard. I was in pain. And she was in pain. I can't even describe the amount of laughter we had down when I had my surgery. And I think when we came back up, because she knew that I had that personality, it just brought everyone else closer. And because our relationship was strengthened through that journey, I think she just kind of depended on me emotionally for a lot of things, and we both did that. And I think that was where we both kind of took on, I took on a second mother role for my siblings at that time because my dad was absent. And in that context, my sister always had me and my mum. So I was like a second mother to her. So when my mum was studying, I was at home sorting the kids out because I wanted her to have this degree so she could create a better life for us. My siblings at the time when I had my heart surgery, they were all very curious as to what I could actually do. They'd do things where they'd ask me about my scar, and my little sister would ask me about my boobs. She was worried about whether they were connected back together or,
From the surgery.
Just a little things, and they just made me smile.
Oh, those kids.
And when they came back, I think it was them that made me pull through quicker, and they were always onto me about my needle.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Just keep making sure that you're taking your medicine. And...
When did you get your needle last,
Oh,
why are you worrying about me? Worry about yourself.
They were worried about you, yeah.
Yeah. But it was those little things that I think I just grew stronger because I knew I had to be strong for them, and they were like my biggest drive. And even this advocacy work that I do now for Rheumatic Heart Disease Australia, it's like I never want anyone to go through what I went through. And I don't want any family to have to split up because of this condition.
When you were talking about some of your work with Rheumatic Heart Disease Australia and sort of your advocacy work, you mentioned there why it was important, but or sort of why it's important for you to share these stories. Do you think that is that because when you were going through it, there wasn't a lot of awareness, or do you think there's not much awareness today? What sort of kind of drives you to want to spread awareness about rheumatic heart disease?
Like I said before, I don't want any family to go through what my family had to go through. I don't want anyone to be undiagnosed like I was. Like, I want everyone to have, like, first-hand care of this illness. Like, I want everyone, all the doctors, all the nurses to have, like, a safety net. You know, if a kid presents to your clinic and they've got, you know, skin sores, sore throats, aching joints, like, just automatically administer penicillin because you can prevent it. It's preventable.
That's the biggest thing here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's preventable. It's 100% preventable. There's just not enough awareness about it. And that's partly why I do this stuff, because I want awareness out there for this condition. So it's not a condition.
Yeah.
You know, so it just gets left.
And what about people who might have been diagnosed for the first time and they're hearing this news from the doctor and might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed and scared by the news that they're just hearing from the doctor that they've got rheumatic heart disease? Or
So when they first get diagnosed.
Yeah, when they first get diagnosed, what would your sort of advice be to them?
I think if you know your body and you know that something's wrong, go to the doctor and continue to go to the doctor until something is done. Because that is what my mum did for so many years before I actually had my heart attack. And nobody listened. Nobody listened. Now I have to live with my rheumatic heart because of ignorant clinicians not diagnosing me properly or doing the appropriate care for that region.
So just make sure, if you feel like something's not right, make sure you go and you get it checked out until you find an answer.
Yep.
Changing speed or topics here a little bit, but I wanted to hear a little bit about a program that you're involved in called Champions for Change. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What's involved? And
so basically it's a group of like clinicians and I'd say patients with rheumatic heart and ARF and some family members that care for people with rheumatic heart and rheumatic fever. And I'm pretty sure the program's designed to be like an advocacy group for, like, if people get diagnosed with rheumatic fever or rheumatic heart, they dispatch a champion to them, and then the champion can answer any of the questions they have, give them reassurance and all of that stuff.
Sort of like a kind of mentor, but not really.
Yeah. So we all come together a couple of times and just talk about like the statistics and what everyone's doing in the communities and what we know about what the clinics are doing, and if we know anyone that's, you know, going on this journey and if we've been there for them and whatnot. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to what it brings out. Like, already I've seen resources get developed and come out of our sessions, and I think a lot of those are in use in the communities.
That's great. That's really good. Have you been sort of buddied up with somebody before, like who's got rheumatic heart disease, that sort of, as a champion, have you?
No, not yet. The program's still in very new stages. We've got shirts now, so everybody, you know, has their own little identifying that they're a champion. And we've got contacts within I think we've moved from Menzies over to the Heart Foundation now.
Yep.
So a lot of the people that I've worked with from when I was 16 are still within this field of work. So, you know, anything that comes up, they're always like, hey, can you do it? And I'm like, yep, I'll do it.
And I was reading that you spoke at an international conference in Melbourne with cardiologists.
Yes.
How was that?
I
From
think
around the world, weren't they were?
Yeah, so they came from all over the world. I think that was in 2000 and maybe 13, 12, something around there. But yeah, they just got me to speak about my patient journey, and the whole room was quiet.
Wow. Were they sort of surprised?
Yeah, very surprised, and they were very moved at how I interpreted my illness at that age.
Well, even I was when you were describing it to me. I was just
Yeah.
kind of gobsmacked to hear that you'd gone through that at such a young age, and how brave you were, and that even today how brave you are and courageous you are, like, just to come out the other end. And I can see why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always tell people that, like, anyone that'll listen to my rheumatic journey, I will talk their ear off. Literally, I will just talk their ear off, talk about the symptoms, talk about how I felt during that journey. And people, they're just like in awe that I've got all this knowledge about this condition that I'm just sharing with people.
And helping raise that sort of awareness.
Yeah, so, if they've got any friends or family or anyone that's going through anything similar, they're like, have you heard of this? I heard this from this person. So it just opens a conversation,
And it's getting out there.
Yep.
One person at a time.
Yep.
And what about the 2 films that you wrote and directed that was about women living with RHD, and it was looking at fertility and pregnancy? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So at the time that I did that, I wasn't dating. I was just focusing on getting my business certificate sorted and obviously working and helping out the family. But it was more like a informative session for me as well, because I actually had to learn about it before I wrote the script, because I put myself in the shoes of someone who had to tell someone that they've got rheumatic heart disease and they potentially have to plan pregnancy. They cannot just be like, let's have a baby. You have to plan it for your care and your baby's care.
Yeah. What were some of the things that you found, like the impacts on sort of women when you're planning for a baby, or, if you're having sort of issues with fertility? Was there sort of anything interesting that you came across there, or important to sort of
Yeah, so the important thing I found with that was the safest contraceptions. I never knew about those at the time that I was writing the film, and I actually had someone like talk me through it, like, these are the ones that are important. We need to have this health message into it.
What were they, some of the...
So I'm pretty sure they were saying that the depot and the implant-on, the one in the arm, were the most safest. And when you are planning to have a baby, you have to go speak to the doctor before you start trying, because they'll put you on, what do they call it, like pregnancy tablets? Yeah. Like the multivitamins and the folic acid and all of that stuff. But they'll also order a screening echo to make sure your heart is doing okay and that you'll be able to sustain a pregnancy. If it's not strong enough, they'll advise you not to fall pregnant until your heart is strong enough.
Wow, that's really important. Hey,
yeah.
These little things that sometimes we don't think about, and I think raising that is really important, especially for, young women who might be talking about having kids or thinking about having children, to sort of factor that in the back of their mind as well.
Yeah, and it's also to, like, educate your partner as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, true.
And I think film at the time was, like, the number one sort of avenue we kind of went down, because, you can't get teenagers off their phones.
True, yeah.
Especially, like, young people, like, you've got people on Snapchat, Facebook,
TikTok,
like, all of that stuff. And having the videos out there on YouTube, they can just click on it and watch it whenever they want.
It's
easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very, like, there's a bit of drama in it as well, because it's like you've got a girlfriend that thinks she's healthy, but then a partner that's like, wow, I need to really look after this woman, I need to make sure that she has her injections, that she goes for these echoes, that she sees the doctor before we even try anything.
So it's like almost plotting that out. What happens in reality.
Yeah, so that was the first one. Then the second one, she's deteriorated, and then she's gone for surgery, and then she's come back, and now she's healthy enough to have a baba, and then she has a baba.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, congratulations on doing that. That's wonderful. I thought it was really interesting. And so if we're looking to, you kind of talked about your history and, growing up and some of the great, exciting things that you've been working on over the last couple of years. What's the sort of future plans and what does the future hold for you? What are you thinking about for the future?
Well, I'm thinking I want to do my business cert still. I've only completed it partially, so I want to go back and do that before I have any babies.
Babies are on the cards.
Yep.
Was that the sort of, you were thinking about that when you were putting together your films? Or that wasn't front of mind?
No, that wasn't front of mind until 2018 when I met my partner.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yep.
So business certificate and then starting your family.
Yep.
I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I reckon that's all we've got time for today, Kenya. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for opening up and sharing your story with myself, but also all the listeners and being so honest with sharing your journey and all of that information and experience. And I wish you all the best. You're an amazing, strong woman, and I know you'll go on to achieve some great things. So I'll be watching from the sidelines and cheering you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks.
If this episode has brought up anything for you, or you need some advice or guidance on yours or your family's CHD journey, you can call the HeartKids helpline on 1-800-432-785. To access more information and find out more about the support HeartKids offers, visit the website at heartkids.org.au. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice from your doctor or healthcare team. Always talk to your doctor about matters that affect yours or your family's health.